A notification lands on a phone at 3:47 in the morning. The owner is asleep, has been for hours, but the money did not wait for them to wake up. A customer on the other side of the world found the product, added it to their cart, entered their card details, and pressed confirm. The sale processed, the fulfillment system triggered, the revenue landed, and the owner slept through all of it. This is not a dream. This is Tuesday. Now picture the person in the apartment next door. Same city, similar age, similar education. They woke up at 6:30, commuted 40 minutes, worked 8 hours, commuted back, and earned exactly what their employer agreed to pay them for exactly the hours they showed up. Not a dollar more, not a dollar less. Both people earned money today, but only one of them earned it while they were unconscious. The question that should be sitting uncomfortably in your mind right now is this: what is the actual difference between those two people? It is not talent. It is not luck. It is not a trust fund or a technical degree or a secret that only certain people are allowed to know. It is a decision about what to do with effort. The person sleeping through sales did not skip the hard work. They front loaded it. They built something, a system, a product, a business structure that could operate without their constant physical presence. And once that thing was running, it ran. Whether they were awake or asleep, whether they were working or resting, whether it was Tuesday or a holiday 3 months from now. The person commuting every morning made a different decision, possibly without ever realizing they made it. Every dollar they earn is directly attached to every hour they show up. The moment they stop showing up, the money stops. No hours, no income, full stop. This is not a moral judgment. Both people are working hard, but one of them is building something with an engine, the other is the engine. Here is what that looks like over time. A woman named Claire works in marketing. She earns $68,000 a year. She is good at her job. She gets small raises. She spends what her income requires. She saves when she can. At 45, she looks at her financial position and realizes it is entirely dependent on her continuing to show up to work. If she stops, through choice, through illness, through layoffs, the income stops with her. Then there is Marcus, same age as Claire. He spent several years building a small online business alongside his full-time job. It was not fast. It was not glamorous. There were months where he wondered if it would amount to anything, but he kept building. He automated what could be automated. He hired one part-time person to handle what could not be automated. He created systems for the parts that needed a human. By the time Marcus is 45, the business generates around $4,000 a month. Not a fortune, but it is $4,000 that arrives whether Marcus works that month or not. It is $4,000 that does not require him to sit in a specific chair for 8 specific hours. It is $4,000 that changes what his options look like for the rest of his life. Claire and Marcus had the same number of hours in every day. Marcus directed some of his toward building an engine. Claire directed hers entirely toward being one. Now here is where the psychology becomes important. Why do most people follow Claire's path and not Marcus's? The answer is deceptively simple. Claire's path feels safer. The feedback is immediate and certain. She works Monday, she gets paid Friday. The connection between effort and reward is direct, visible, and reliable. Marcus's path offered no such comfort in the early years. He built things and waited. He invested effort and saw nothing immediately in return. The reward was delayed and uncertain. And the human brain, wired over hundreds of thousands of years to respond to immediate feedback, finds delayed reward genuinely uncomfortable. There is actually a name for what Marcus was tolerating. Economists call it delayed gratification. Behavioral psychologists call it the marshmallow problem. Ordinary people just call it being patient. But whatever you call it, it is one of the most well-documented predictors of long-term financial outcomes that exists. The people who build wealth consistently are not necessarily smarter or more talented. They are more comfortable sitting with the discomfort of building something that does not pay off immediately. The economic forces at play here are worth understanding because they affect everyone, including the people who never build a business at all. Traditional employment income is what economists call linear income. Time in equals dollars out. The relationship is direct and proportional. Work more hours, earn more. Work fewer hours, earn less. Stop working, earn nothing. Business income, particularly business income that operates through systems, has a different structure. The economist would call it leveraged income. You apply effort once, and the output continues beyond that single application of effort. The software keeps selling. The rental property keeps collecting rent. The automated store keeps processing orders. The compounding effect of leveraged income over time is why the wealth gap between business owners and wage earners tends to widen rather than narrow, even when the wage earner has a higher starting income. Claire out-earns Marcus for years while he is building. But Marcus's asset, the business he built, accumulates value independently of his hours. At some point, the asset overtakes the income, and this is not a fringe outcome. It is a pattern documented in economic research and in the financial histories of ordinary people who built something, not dramatically, not overnight, but consistently. Let us get specific about what building this kind of income actually involves, because the phrase passive income has been polluted by influencers who make it sound effortless. It is not effortless. Almost nothing genuinely worth building is. The landlord who collects rent every month spent years saving a down payment. They spent time finding the right property, managing a mortgage, dealing with maintenance, finding tenants, and navigating the legal obligations of ownership. The rent arrives passively now because the active work was done earlier. The person receiving stock dividends spent years consistently buying shares. They contributed during market downturns when it felt frightening. They resisted selling when prices dropped. They reinvested returns when it would have been more satisfying to spend them. The dividends arrive passively now because the discipline was applied earlier. The business owner sleeping through 3 a.m. sales spent evenings and weekends building systems, writing content, testing products, learning what works, and replacing what does not. The sales arrive passively now because the infrastructure was built earlier. Passive income is almost always a description of what the income looks like on arrival. It is rarely a description of what the process looked like while it was being built. The most important reframe is this. Most people ask, how do I earn more money? That is a reasonable question, but it has a ceiling. There are only so many hours. There is only so much you can charge per hour. At some point, the linear math runs out. The better question, the one that Marcus asked and Claire did not, is how do I build something that earns beyond my hours? That question leads somewhere different. It leads toward assets, toward systems, toward things that produce value whether you are present or not. And, practically speaking, you do not have to quit your job to begin answering it. A dividend-paying index fund bought monthly inside a tax-sheltered account is a small engine being built. A rental property purchased after careful research is a larger engine. A side business automated with basic tools is another. A digital product created once and sold many times is another still. The engines differ in size and in complexity, but the principle is the same. Build the thing that works while you are doing something else. Here is what that actually looks like over a 10-year period for someone who starts with almost nothing. A 28-year-old sets aside $400 a month into a globally diversified index fund that pays dividends and compounds returns. They also spend 2 years building a small online service business that eventually earns $1,500 a month with minimal ongoing maintenance. By 38, the investment portfolio is worth approximately $73,000. The dividends alone generate around $2,000 a year without any withdrawal. The business still runs. Total passive or semi-passive income, approximately $3,500 per month. None of this eliminated their need for a regular income in those 10 years, but it built a second layer, a floor, a set of engines that run independently of whether they show up to their main job on any given morning. The financial security that creates the optionality is difficult to describe to someone who does not yet have it. But people who have built it consistently describe it the same way. They say they stopped feeling trapped. The trap is real, and it is invisible until you name it. Trading time for money is not a trap because it is dishonest. It is a trap because it is the only mechanism, and because mechanisms with only one route are fragile. Your income is one decision away from disappearing. Your employer's decision. One diagnosis away from pausing. One economic downturn away from having. Build a second mechanism and the fragility shifts. Not eliminated, shifted. The portfolio does not care if you get laid off. The rental property does not care if your employer downsizes. The automated business does not care if you need to take time away. The risks of life do not disappear, but they stop being exclusively your income's problem. There is one more thing worth saying before we close. The most common reason people do not build these things is not lack of money. It is not lack of time. It is not lack of access to information. It is the belief that this is for other people. People with more money to start. People with more technical knowledge. People who already own things. People born into circumstances that make building easier. And the honest truth, the one that holds up when you study the actual financial histories of ordinary people who built second income streams, is that this belief is simply not supported by the evidence. Marcus was not exceptional. He was consistent. That distinction matters more than almost anything else. The difference between the person who earns while they sleep and the person who cannot afford to stop working is rarely one dramatic decision. It is usually a series of quiet decisions made over years. To build rather than just earn. To invest rather than only spend. To create systems rather than remain the only system. None of those decisions require exceptional circumstances to begin. They require only the willingness to start asking a different question. Not how do I earn more, but what can I build that will earn for me? The most valuable thing you will ever own is not a product, a property, or a portfolio. It is a system that keeps working on days when you cannot. If this video made you see income differently, subscribe to Nuella Invests. Every week we go deeper into the financial ideas that change how ordinary people think about money, build wealth, and make better decisions. Subscribe now so you never miss one. I will see you in the next video.